Hello, everybody. Welcome to Two Tired Dads Talk Tech and TA. Hey, I'm managed to say it. Hello, John.
Hello, it's good to be here.
So we are doing a special LinkedIn now. It's pre-recorded because we got help from some people. As you can see, it's almost summer. It's nice. How are you today?
I am very good. It's very nice to be recording one of these outside rather than indoors as always. So yeah, I'm looking forward to today. And it's so good. And thank you for everybody that actually responded and gave us some questions.
Yeah,
Looking forward to answering them, to be honest.
it's going to be a bit of a challenge, but we like it. So it's a bit of a special video today for different reasons. So first, this is the first time that we do it outside. We had a lot of issues just like trying to make it work in terms of recording.
It's just we're trying new stuff. We're experimenting. We've got about 10 cameras set up. We've got about 5 mics we've tried. But it's all a part of the fun. The journey's the fun part, right?
Exactly. So we are very happy to make it work finally with a special one about sourcing. So we wanted to talk about sourcing because it's not a topic that neither John or I address a lot. And, and some people told me, yeah, but sourcing is not your thing. And I'm like, yeah, that's not because we don't decide to talk about it, that we don't like it first, and that we don't know about it. And this is, yes, sourcing is an important topic. And we're both recruiters. You're recruiting at the moment.
I am indeed. I'm looking for a senior engineer. So I got my hands dirty again, back in there, practicing what I preach.
And that's what we do. And I've been recruiting for more than 15 years, loving it, it's still doing it. So we asked help from some dear people to us who agreed to send us sourcing questions, questions that matter, questions that are important on the market. And we're going to try to answer them and give some advices and ideas on how to answer these sourcing questions.
Including both of our wives who are in HR.
Yes.
And talent.
Thank you. Thank you to all. Well, I'm only kissing mine, not yours. And we got a lot of very, very important and interesting guests, people who are very skilled in sourcing. So this is even more of a challenge for us. I think that's enough of an intro.
Agreed.
Let's start with the first question. So we have a question video from Mélanie Goubet, who is a talent acquisition specialist at Disneyland Paris. Actually, that's a question that's also been asked. So it's an important one. Also been asked by Marine Gerardo, whom I've worked with for 5 years. Marine, en pense à toi. So this is a bit of a special video as well. We didn't talk about it, but we're going to have to do it both in French and in English. You're going to have to follow up. We will put subtitles, especially for you, but British guy, French guy, we do what we can.
Exactly.
Bonjour à tous les deux, j'ai une question mapping pour vous. Quels sont vos conseils lorsqu'on est amené à devoir recruter, sourcer dans une région très précise, très particulière et parfois même loin de grandes villes? Donc vos conseils pour pouvoir mapper cette zone, la région, les villes, les villages aux alentours et pouvoir y trouver des candidats.
Thank you, Melanie, for this question. The question in English was, how do you do when you have to do some kind of a sourcing in the countryside where there are lots of different cities, small cities, and when you have to find people who are far from the biggest cities? So how do you do your sourcing and how do you do your mapping? And this is actually something I practice a lot. So I really like it. How would you do, John?
Well, if I go back to my agency days, all those millennia ago, one of the things that worked very, very well was if you have a very good CRM and you can re-engage that CRM, that's a good way of doing it.
Okay,
right?
that's a good way.
And what you used to be able to do is we used to do postcode searches.
Yeah.
So you have to do within a radius of a particular postcode, and that would be the one that actually filters up those the candidates, right? And then that way you could have a certain number of people that you know could be within a commutable distance to that particular location. But that's working with existing data. But I don't know what you think about
Well, I
external data, right?
No, yeah, no, but I really like how you do it, and if you have the data, that's great. Well, what I used to do a lot was working with tools like Google Maps. Honestly, I did that really many times. Is just look at the map, look at the location, and it's just not just about the radius, but how you go there. Like
Yes, exactly.
with the roads, the train lines.
Yeah, the transportation lines in.
Exactly. And so I used to just look at the map and look at, for example, let's say that I'm aiming to source people who will have maximum 45 minutes of commuting to go to
Exactly.
work for a specific job. It can be lower or higher depending on the persona of the candidate that you are looking for. I would specifically look, for example, along a specific road, all the different cities that you could find, and I would write a list, and then I would put all these lists, this list in of cities in my Boolean search.
Yes.
But that worked. But that was a lot of man work, and I found recently a better way to do this.
Go on, how?
AI.
Of course.
So that's a use case of AI. You can ask ChatGPT to do this legwork for you. So, for example, I did a prompt and I asked ChatGPT to give me all the name of all the cities within a 30-minute commuting of Dijon. I chose Dijon because I remember this is a city where I needed to recruit at the time, and it was very difficult. There's kind of a lot of space between the different cities.
Yep.
Do you know Dijon?
I'm not familiar with it, but I understand there's certain locations like that in the UK that are difficult to commute.
And so it worked. And I was amazed by seeing the lists of cities that ChatGPT gave me. And mostly I was amazed by the fact that it took into account not the radius, but the commuting. So I would invite you to try that.
That sounds like a great idea.
Thank you again, Melanie, and thank you, Marine, for this great question. So we proceed with a second question. A question from Anne-Claire Carpentier, who is Talent Acquisition Manager and Employer Branding at Carte Noire and Lavazza. Anne-Claire, with someone I know well. We've been working together, me as a provider and her as a client in two different companies, and I really like working with her. And thank you again for your question. Let's listen to that.
Bonjour Jean-Marie, bonjour John. Ma question pour vous, est-ce qu'en 2024, l'IA peut vraiment aider les recruteurs dans leur message d'approche? Merci.
So that's a great question. In 2024, can AI really help recruiters building messages to reach out to candidates or potential candidates? What do you think?
I'm going to say yes, because I've actually done it. And I give an example of this. I actually built a GPT, and a GPT is something inside of ChatGPT, and it's your own kind of like personal little bot that you've built. You're training yourself based on your knowledge, based on your prompts, based on your instructions, right?
Yeah.
And what you can do is you can start to give what's called a knowledge base to this GPT. So it can start to understand and analyze your personal tone in the way in which you speak. It can understand your company tone and tone of voice. And once you've kind of trained it on that a little bit, you can then take a specific CV. You can put that CV into that GPT, and you can ask it a very simple question using a good prompt saying, acting as a talent acquisition specialist, how may I create a specific message to this particular person, etc. And it will give you a very, very tailored approach to this particular person with your tone of voice. And if it's not 100% right the first time, you just tweak it a little bit. And then the next time you will actually tell the GPT, next time you do this, make sure you change X, Y, and Z, and it will learn for the next time, and it will update the prompt and update the instructions. So that's a really good example of being able to do that. I'm not saying do that for every single candidate, but if you wanted to see how to do that and how it compared to your manual messages you're doing, it's a pretty good A/B test to try.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So I don't have a lot to add to that because I agree with you and I tried it. I'm even delivering trainings about it, so that's why I can say that I've worked on it a lot. But there are a few things that you need to pay attention to. First is that we are still working with GDPR. So even if you want ChatGPT to get to know better about your candidate, if you don't have a specific enterprise account, I mean an account that is made for privacy, if you're just using even a paying ChatGPT subscription or another AI tool,
Exactly.
you can't just put a CV or personal data or LinkedIn profile of a candidate in it.
Because you're training the model to learn exactly what you're putting in there, so it can take that information. And that's the problem. Some GPTs, if you don't put a specific instruction in it, there has been an example where you can expose the data of people that are inside of that GPT.
Yes.
So you have to be very, very careful about this.
So my advice would be to work with personas. So a persona is kind of a statistical representation of a. So we said there might be some noises. This is Oki the white dog. I'm gonna get her in. She's guilty. So working with persona is a good solution. So what is a persona? It's a statistical representation of your possible candidates. So what they like,
Job
what they
title,
do,
location.
You can even go further.
Identifies.
You can go further with their interest, professional interest, where you have the most chances to find them, both offline and offline. But that's for another topic. So that's one way of dealing with this. And another thing that I'm a bit frustrated with using ChatGPT for messages, reaching out messages, because myself, I'm kind of in a school of using the connections. And yes, I like to craft my messages, but still I played with it, and I like to. I did a GPT like you did with my tone of voice. I fade in anonymized messages that I used to send. And still, I prefer to send invitations on LinkedIn with a message. I mean,
no, but you know what? The reason why I agree with you is because there are examples where you can see that connection. So, for example, I spoke to someone the other day, and then we realized there was someone in common that we actually knew. It wasn't just a connection link. It was I actually know this person because they actually used to coach me, and then we got talking, and it just builds that relationship to be stronger, that rapport building at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And at the moment, AI is not making those connections because they're not connected to your brain.
Exactly. So you want to personalize it. But my issue is even another one. It's very simple. I mean, you're gonna think it's floor level, but when you ask for limit of characters, because when you send invitations, you have to limit the characters that you can use. And when you ask ChatGPT to limit the characters, then I don't know why, but it can't keep all of the parameters. I mean, myself, I didn't manage to keep all of the parameters, so it works fine when you send an email or an email. But if you need to make sure that
in a shorter text, sometimes it's like half of the amount, and it just loses its effect.
Yes, exactly. So it's like it forgets one of the other parameters. But that's doable, and this is going to get better and better. What we're seeing here won't be valid in 6 months.
No, it won't be valid in about a week's time because the speed in which they're growing is exponential, which is hard for us to really understand.
Exactly. So thank you, Anne-Claire, again for your question and your participation. It's a pleasure. Should we move with the third question?
Let's do it.
It's a special guest. So we don't have a video. He sent it to us by text. This is a question from Guillaume Alexandre, who is a senior sourcer at Meta Reality Lab. So this is a branch hiring experts in virtual reality, and he's also the founder behind People Attraction Theory, sourcing bootcamp. So everybody knows Guillaume Alexandre, I guess. If you don't know him, go add him on LinkedIn. He's the Pope of sourcing in France and in Switzerland and even more in Europe. And he asked us a question very interesting. How would you find scientists in a specific field when their research paper names are difficult to understand, and when you yourself as a recruiter don't understand what you're looking for the field, and you need to be exhaustive because we're talking about a real sourcing assignment when you need to map all of the profiles. Really great question. How would you do, John?
That is a very good question.
You want me to start with this one?
To be honest, I'll be very, very honest. This specific question, I've never had to recruit for this particular type of profile before
Yeah.
in that level of depth. If I'm brutally honest.
Yeah, I think that's his daily work.
And I think, but that is this is super high level sourcing. This is like the equivalent of exec search type level of recruitment. And I think there's a lot of stuff that we can overlay, and we have to look for the way I would approach this is, how would I identify the right things I need to be able to connect?
Yeah.
And then how would I go about doing that? Is it the research papers themselves? But obviously the point in question is that is ridiculously hard to do when you don't understand the context of it. I'd probably start to look at specific institutions. That's what I would start.
Okay.
I would look at institutions, and I think this type of stuff is going to be very much heavily involved in word of mouth, really speaking to people, asking for help, asking for recommendations, asking for people to put you in touch with other people. That's how I would go about tackling that. That is not a silver bullet. That is not a hack. That is just pure hard work. But
Yeah, but
There's
that's where
probably a
you
better
will start.
solution.
If
I had to
fall on
start-
your lap, you will start like that.
if I had to start with, and that's what I would start. But it's an unsophisticated approach to this problem.
I still like it, and of course, doing like talent intelligence and finding places where these topics are hot and important is a good place to start. I will try something else, but maybe that's because of my science geek background. I read research paper a lot. I mean, I like it. I do that as a hobby, mostly on psychology, work psychology. And there are websites where you can find all of this research reference. I will give an example with one, like ResearchGate. And we say, okay, we're looking for researchers who have a deep knowledge of their topic.
Mhm.
Usually, if a research is really good and really important, then it's cited a lot in other researches.
Yeah, okay.
And on these kind of platforms, you can do a search by
Citation?
exactly looking for papers that are cited a lot.
Okay.
So if you type in these keywords and you look for the papers that are the most cited, you might find like at least the papers that seems the most relevant to the field.
Actually, I have a
today.
question for you then.
Yeah.
So if we were to look at, again, I'm getting into AI here, but this is text-based, right?
Yeah.
This is all text-based, which is
Yeah.
designed for LLMs. So if you were to go into one of these GPTs that are doing the research, that can search all of the different research papers,
Oh, you have
And you-
GPTs dedicated
yeah,
to that.
you have
yeah?
the GPT dedicated to that, and you specifically asked it to do exactly what you're asking, I'd be intrigued to see what it comes back with if you asked for a list of all the people that were cited
That's
the
a good
most.
question. I didn't get the chance
Let's
to
try.
try.
Let's try that.
Let's
after.
try it. Let's try it.
As a test.
By the way, if you have ideas, you who are listening to us or watching this video, if you have ideas to any of the sourcing questions that come here, please give us a comment. Leave your ideas. I mean, this is the idea behind it. It's sharing. It's building.
Yeah, it's not
better
just us
solutions for the
saying what we
community.
think is the
yeah.
answer. It's like an open forum, you know. It's the best.
Exactly. And actually, we will be very interested, and the people who are asking the question even more. Well, I guess that Guillaume might have an idea behind the question. So, Guillaume, we are waiting for you to answer your own question and tell us if we had good ideas or if we just
Didn't.
went wrong. Thanks a lot for your
thank you.
involvement. It's always a pleasure with you. The next question is very important because it comes from a dear person to me, Mélodie Andrade, who is campus manager at Bouygues Travaux Publics, subsidiary of Bouygues Construction. What's your question, Mélodie?
Bonjour Jean-Marie, bonjour John. Le marché de la construction est très tendu. On fait face à beaucoup de concurrence, notamment sur la partie alternance. Quels sont vos conseils pour approcher de la meilleure des manières ces profils qui sont très sollicités?
Great question because it tackles a whole other area. So Melody is hiring a lot of students for apprenticeships, donc alternance in French, and she's asking specifically in her business where there's a lot of competition to get the students from the best schools, how we could put a sourcing strategy in order to identify them and get to them.
It's a good question.
How would you do?
If I were to pick one thing right now, I would work on employer branding and I would double down on TikTok
Why TikTok?
because it's that it without stereotyping and boxing, but I think in this situation we are personifying people. I think that this is the generation that is using this a lot. It's highly targeted, and it's where a lot of these this lot of this population are going to be. They're going to be living. They're going to be looking at it. They're going to be involved in it. And as a creator of it, I mean, I have started to use it a little bit, so I'm talking from a little bit of limited experience, but you can see it brings you an audience. It's the opposite of the other types of social media platforms where you have to search for your
Yeah.
audience. It really brings it to you. And if you've got some good content to start off with and you hook them in very early on, you're creating this content journey and you will be front of mind and it has to resonate with them. I don't know. It's an option.
I think it's a great mid-term to long-term strategy.
Yeah.
And this is important. And yes, all the numbers show that TikTok is a rising platform. We do have to be careful too, because the legislative
yes.
news about this, we don't know. At the moment, different organizations, the United States tried to ban TikTok.
Yeah.
Europe is talking about it. So I think that it's important to be there, but
Of course.
I would wait for this to settle before I put too much budget in it. But I think that's a place to go at the moment. But that might change. Things move quickly.
That's true.
In the short term to mid term, I actually worked on campus management, and I have some convictions around that.
Go on.
I think that's important to target some specific schools, but not only look for like the rankings, like this is the best school, this is the most famous, most expensive. What matters is look at what's the most performant people in your company, where do they come from? Okay, so it's what works in your company. And after that, look not only for the school, but look for example, the master's degree specialties. Like depending, for example, we're talking about building and constructions, depending on the types of jobs that you offer, which master's degrees, which specialties will fit best.
Yeah.
And then try to get in touch directly with the people who are handling the specific specialties, specific master's degree, and not only the people who are responsible for company partnership in these schools, even if you still have to work with them. But I think that what we need is to offer them an experience. I mean, in these schools, when you do campus management, you have all these companies going one after another to meet the students. Their timetable is filled with it. Everybody's there presenting the company, what they do, the jobs. But students forget most of that immediately. This is not what works best. This is not what matters. I think, sorry, we have some pollen flying around and I'm trying to preserve my friend John, who is on the verge of collapsing due to allergies. And I think that you need to make them remember.
It's evoking the emotion of, people are never going to remember the day to day. They're going to remember a particular moment or something it made them feel or something like that. Right?
Yes. So you need to build experiences, build something specific to package and to offer to the schools. And you know what? Most schools, they have feedbacks from the students who say, yeah, it's always the same. So, when I was doing campus management, all the schools I was pitching to, when it was innovative stuff, innovative experiences, they were all very happy to have an opportunity to offer something new to their students. So this is what I will do in terms of both mapping what works in terms of specialties and schools, and then how to approach them for a short to mid-term. Also, there's one last advice I will give. This is one that most people don't think about. Don't focus always on the end of studies, internships and apprenticeship, because most of the companies want people they train to be hireable after that. But then who's going to talk about you to the other students? So invest in like third year people. Of course, the internships are a bit shorter. Of course, the apprenticeships, they can't do as much as what you would ask for a master degree students. But these people, they will do an apprenticeship or an internship, and they, with you, in your company, they will live the full experience, and they will come back to their school after that to talk about it. And then their friends and colleagues, they will say, oh, that seems nice. I would like to go there too.
Yeah.
So that's how you build ambassadors too.
This is really valuable and something that triggered inside me when you're talking about this. And I come from the UK, where you don't have to have a degree to be successful. You don't have to have been at a business school to be successful. And in France, I have the impression it's very much driven by where you've come from, the studies you've done, this type of stuff. And I would implore, if you're listening to this based in France, be bold, be brave, try to look at people who don't have a conventional background that you would ordinarily think about. Some of the people who I've worked with in the past have come from backgrounds that you would not expect them to be evolving and be so amazing in this background because of these biases that we have, because, oh, they come from this school, they must be amazing. Go and look at somebody who's had some adversity in their life. Go and look at somebody who's had to, like, you know, they were working like 2 jobs whilst they were studying, whilst they were doing it, you know, like try and look for something a little bit different. And I think that would help diversify the talent pool that you have going into this as well. But that's just coming from the UK is a different type of mindset.
I understand that, and you know, France, we are a bit specific.
But that's my challenge. That's my challenge to the French. We are not perfect in England, so
yeah. Well, we got a lunch from each other, so that's great. Melody, thank you.
Thanks a good question. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your question. You're the best at what you do, and I'm glad you trusted us with this. Next question.
Who have we got up next?
Oh, we got a question from someone working in a recruitment agency. We wanted to have a diversity of views and a mindset for this question. And this is coming from one of the best. Christophe Guérin, who is a senior international recruitment consultant at Approach People, is actually a former colleague of mine. I've worked for years there. He's very good at what he does. So he's asking, so he specializes in international recruitment, so the question makes sense. He's asking, if you need to start sourcing on another country where you've never recruited before, how would you handle it? And that's great, because lots of different countries have different rules, different cultures. Well, actually, I have some ideas around that, but you're the British guy living in another country. So what would I do? What would you do?
I would try and I would try and go to the country. I would try to go to the location in which I'm hiring for, if it's feasible.
Okay.
But either way, whether you can do this face-to-face or not face-to-face, I would be speaking to experts in that area. I'd identify people who are key in that particular market, people who are running communities. I would speak to people who can connect you with the legalities around certain things. Like Germany is one of the most places that I was quite shocked. It's so close, but there's so many different regulations and rules and stuff like that. And I would try and network and just ask to be put in touch with other people that can give you advice first. That way you're kind of got a grounding, you know the lay of the land, and then you can start your sourcing strategy. And the other thing I would think about is trying to find publicly available data. Mm-hmm. So try and find that kind of like publicly available data, try and analyze that, and then start to map out the type of talent pools you have, and where they are, what they do, that type of stuff. I don't know. What do you think?
These are great advices. I would add one more step at the very beginning.
Yep.
Is I will still post an ad through my usual channels.
Yeah.
I don't know the country. Maybe it's not going to work at all, but while I'm doing everything else, there's still an ad out.
Yeah.
And we can say that job ads don't work. When you do a good ad with good writing, well targeted, it works. Maybe it won't work at all, but I will still do something in terms of communication in the meantime, while I get all the information, because I don't like to lose time on that. And then I will do exactly what you did. Talk to people who know the market better than I do, because this is invaluable information. And I like what you said about getting publicly available data. There's more and more available data that you can get publicly. And again, we're going to talk about AI. AI tools can help you get access to that data.
Exactly.
Because
and simplify it, translate it.
Exactly. So this is important. Thanks a lot, Christophe. And you know what? Thank you for your question. It was text question, not a video. But if you can write us what you would do, which advice you will give, it will be super, super cool. Thank you for your participation. Next question comes from Loïc Langrand. Loïc Langrand, someone who is very special to me because I've known him since his beginnings in recruitment, and is one of the best sourcers we have on the French market now. So his exact title is Gentleman Lead Sourcer at Zenica. So we need to know, Loïc, if the word gentleman is actually on your pay slip or your contract. I mean, this is important.
I hope it is.
Oh, yeah,
this would be fantastic.
But he is a gentleman. And actually, you know, he won the first recruitment championship in France, the first event, and since then, he's just being a great asset to the community and sharing a lot. So thank you for that. And let's listen to his question.
Hello à vous deux, petite question sourcing. Je voudrais savoir comment vous incluriez plus de diversité dans votre sourcing sans avoir à féminiser les types de postes. Ciao.
Okay, so I'm going to try to translate this one best. He's asking how we could add more diversity to our sourcing without having to feminize the job titles. Like, but I don't know if that
it doesn't really exist in the UK.
Yeah, because in English it doesn't change the same.
So for anyone that's like not familiar with this, there is a masculine word and a feminine word in the way in which you write a job title, and that's what he's referring to.
Yes,
right?
This is
and
it.
There's a big topic and a big discussion about this in France at the moment, about not, you know, the way the French language is, it defaults to the masculine, right?
Yes. Okay, merci pour cette question, Loïc. Thank you for that question. So this is a very tricky one because you're asking how we can get more diversified profile, especially in terms of gender, because this is where it has an impact on the job titles in French. And I would focus on the other words, on the keywords. Well, first, I'm not sure why you asked the question. Maybe it's how you can make it simple, but I still think it's good to look for different job titles, because if you do your sourcing, you're going to use different job titles anyway, because there are different ways to approach this, and people don't define themselves the same way. But if you really want to save the hassle of doing like different searches or adding too many keywords, I would focus on something that you find inside the profile, like a core skill, another keyword, or even a phrase, an expression that you find mostly in this profile. And then I would use exclusions, because if you're more generic, that you're not using the job titles, you are using a keyword in the profile, you're more generic. So that means that you are going to have like a bigger,
wider scope of,
a bigger pool. So you're going to have to exclude some of them with other keywords to make sure that they don't fit. But I'm sure that you already know that. The real issue with diversity is because it is a bigger one. We got the numbers in France, actually, the results of the last law that passed for the high school living certificate. And in 5 years, the number of women, for example, who are doing science studies.
STEM, maybe say STEM in French? Science, technology.
This is another one. This is one of them. This is one of, but you have several ones. But yes, this is one of them. But you have like a back S is general sciences. It used to be 1 out of 2 people who was a girl in science, and now it's 1 out of 6. It's in 5
even
years.
with their effort focusing on trying.
Yeah. So the new law the new law just did a lot of bad on this. And 5 years ago, this means that the people who got the high school living certificate 5 years ago are now on the market for their first full-time job. If they did like the 5 years master degree, maybe they went on the market, job market earlier, but they should be here in September. And so in September, I think that lots of recruiters are going to start to struggle even more in terms of diversity for all the science and technical roles.
Yeah, so it's not actually, and that's one of the other things. But previously, I was working at 50 in Tech, which is very much focused on this specific issue around women in tech and how we can support them. And not only have you got this problem at the top of the funnel, people coming into the industry, you've also got the fact that people are leaving. Like women are leaving on average after 8 years in tech. So you've kind of got this like double problem, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And you've even seen that the gender pay gap's getting worse. We diversify from the specific question, but I do think that's a whole other topic that we could talk about another time.
Yes, and that's an important one. And thank you for the question. It's a really tricky one. It's difficult. I'll be honest. I don't have a better answer than that right now. If you have one, please share it. But because I think that for diversity, it's not about sourcing. It's more about first communication. Because okay, we said what we had to say about the law, but you do with what you have on the market right now. So it's about showing the way, doing a lot of communication. If you need to, you can do some sourcing where you choose to balance the odds in terms of proportions. Because, for example, if you just follow the proportions of women in tech, then let's say that you get a short list of 5 people. There shouldn't be the same proportion if you follow the market odds, but you can decide to balance it. So this is something
I have 2 points here. Number one, if you want to do something, take actions that are positive that are encouraging and positive towards being inclusive to women in tech, and understanding what it is that is needed, what's missing, what's wrong, and take actions to be doing better. That's the number one thing you can do. Because if you're doing that without just thinking of, oh, what do we look like externally? If you're taking those actions, the good things will come after that. And that's the number one bit of advice I would say. And also, there was a rather large USN, like a consulting company in France. And one of the things that they actually did was they didn't have enough women in tech in a specific, it was really underrepresented, like even compared to the industry comparison. And what they did was they would have to present, for every one male CV, they had to showcase a female CV as well. So they tried to do it in this way, and that actually for them worked. I'm not saying this is easy to do, but it was
super interesting.
It was a particular way in which they overcome this.
There's no easy way to do that. If you have suggestions or other answers to your own questions, you are most welcome to share it with us, and even better in the comments. But again, when it comes to diversity, the earlier you start, the better the results are. And let's be honest, it's going to get tougher and tougher, at least on the French market. Thank you for that, Loïc.
Thank you.
And we have a last question. Do you know who it's from?
My wonderful wife.
Yes, that question is from Bérangère Hazelton, who is looking after employer brand and talent acquisition at l'Uni. Thank you, Bérangère, for the question. So the question is, how can you source when you don't have LinkedIn Recruiter? So this is a tricky question, and it gets asked every week.
Yeah.
How can we do without LinkedIn Recruiter? Not saying that LinkedIn Recruiter is a bad tool, but first, it's expensive. It's a reality. So not saying it doesn't bring value, but the prices are going up every so and then. So not everyone can follow. And there is no alternative. So, I mean, there is a few social networks and some niche market, but nothing compares to LinkedIn. So how would you answer that, John?
It's tough. I mean, number one, I think it comes down to employer brand. I think that by getting your EVP right, by getting your overall employer brand aligned with your corporate branding is super important. And then also understanding your recruitment marketing strategy as well. If you can get those 3 things aligned, I think that's a good place to start. And then I would really start to look at some other companies and how they've managed to do this, right? And this is not a quick answer. This is a mid to long-term investment. But if you look at the companies like Monzo, and Monzo in the UK is a challenger bank who've just actually, congratulations, they've just actually made a profit after 10 years. So well done. Well done, Monzo. What they used to do very, very early on was just do open days. Every single week, this is pre-COVID, they used to just open the doors and say, this time on a Thursday, come and have drinks with our team. With no agenda, no nothing, that you could talk to them. They are very open in public about the product roadmap. They were talking very openly about what they were working on and stuff like that. And I think that kind of level of transparency gives some level of trust automatically in some ways. So I wouldn't say that that's a short-term answer, but it's more of a mid to long-term approach.
No, that's a great approach, and I really love the idea of recruiting through events and through building a real employer brand, like face-to-face, human-to-human.
Yeah.
But you know, this question gets asked a lot, and even more these last times with the Google Boolean search getting more and more difficult to access to, and most of the techniques that a lot of us use to source,
like the X-ray searches you're talking about.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of offline sourcing. I'll be honest. So of course we can talk about online sourcing, but then the question is a bit large because it will depend on the type of profile that you're looking for. Because there are always solutions online, of course. You need to look for where the people that you are searching, you need to look for where they are, where they get together online, where they get together offline, which is like kind of a link to the event strategy. But you know, there are other ways to recruit. We did recruit before internet. You and I didn't know that. So that might sound weird to say that. But one of the questions, I'm going to share with you an anecdote. One of my interview questions, if I give it now, it's going to be void. I will have to find another one. But every time I hire a recruiter, I have a list of questions, but there's one question I like to ask, and this is especially to see their ability to source offline or think outside of LinkedIn or the job boards and so on. It's like, for example, let's imagine that I ask you to hire a sales representative who is selling to small shops, like shops in the streets. So these are his B2B clients. And how will you find them? And then most of the recruiters, they tell me, I will open my tool like LinkedIn, and I will type on some keywords. I will type some like sales representative and shops, and then they start to realize, when they say it, they start to realize that this is too broad of a search to get anything done. So I help them. If they don't find the answer, I help them saying, okay, let's imagine, this question is really, I can't use it anymore now that I'm sharing it. Let's imagine that you don't have any electricity and no battery. Once someone told me, yeah, but I still have battery on my laptop or on my phone. I think, you don't have access to anything, okay? What would you do? And so the answer I'm expecting is someone who says, okay, I just get out. You said this is someone who is a salesperson who sells to small shops. There are small shops everywhere. So I just have to get out, go in the street, and go to shop owners and just tell them, hi, I'm looking to get some references about the providers that you prefer to work with. Would you be able to recommend anyone? And then they will give you the name of the person. Again, these people will be referenced. We asked for the preferred one, and they will most of the time give you the mobile phone. So this is just an example of how you can do recruitment offline. There are a lot of different ways to do that. The agency where I used to work back in the day was hiring a lot of German-speaking people who could be available to start on an entry-level job. You know, but in France, one of the solutions was to go into the German bars, because when you're a foreigner, and you might know that, well, no, you came with your wife, so it's different. But when you're a foreigner and you come on your own in a country, you tend to look for other people from the same country, so you don't get. Well, not everybody does that, but it's something that you do. So there are places. And you have German bars in Paris. And for example, so you go there, you ask if you can put an ad, and then you go directly to the source. And you just have to think, it's not even outside the box. It's just thinking about make it simple. You see, with Work Me Tender, this is good, I can place it. Okay, Work Me Tender, we make recruitment simple. This is the idea. What can be the simplest way to get to our candidates? What do you think about that?
I think that's a very good idea. And I think it's just taking it back to pre-internet times, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe not pre-internet, I go a bit too far, but it's exactly like that. We always had to think of different ways. I remember having to search for Samsung Badu developers. Okay, this is before Samsung took on Android.
Okay.
One of the most hardest things to recruit for. There was barely anyone. Super, super hard. And I went to an event. I was like, how am I going to find this? And it was a client that I really wanted to work with because they were like hiring mobile engineers like crazy. And I really wanted to work with this client. He said, if you fill this job, I'll give you a chance to work on all the other jobs. So I'm like, okay. So I went to this event. I spoke to the presenter at the beginning of before he started presenting, and I said to him, "Look," I said, "at the end of it, would you mind just saying if anybody's looking for work, could they come and get in touch?" He announced it. At the end of the event, someone come over to me and said, "I'm actually looking for work." I placed that person at the company. I ended up having an amazing relationship. Went to the football loads of times and placed tons and tons of candidates with that client. But it's just about maybe having to do something you wouldn't ordinarily do, you know? I don't know if that really answers the question, but I think it's...
well, you will know tonight.
I know, I will.
By tonight, you will know if we answer that. Thanks a lot, Bérangère, and thank you for these insights, John.
Yep, you're very welcome. And thank you for the question, Bérangère.
That was the last question?
That was the last question.
Wow, time flew by.
It did. It really did. I enjoyed that. It was some tough questions.
It was some tough questions. Yeah.
It made us think.
I felt
you made us work. You made us work, so thank you.
Well, we would be super happy to keep the conversation going. I mean, let's go and brainstorm around these questions, because these questions, none of them was easy. No. So there are lots of different answers, and we don't pretend to have the absolute truth. No. These are all ideas that you need to try in different parameters. It was very nice to record that.
As you all know, me and Jean-Marie love to talk, and I really enjoyed this conversation. And this one was really good, particularly because we had some external input, some questions. It made us challenge, and that was another fantastic Two Tired Dads Talk Talent and Tech with allergies included this time.
Yes, so sorry if you have some cuts in the video. This was so we both could stay alive. Okay, we tried to record the end of this video way too many times, but truth is, we are so happy we got a chance to do that.
It was brilliant. Thank you for the questions.
We are a bit tired, but it's great to do that with the recruitment community, the talent acquisition and employment community. So we invite you to stay in touch with us. So this talk is one Tuesday out of two at a time, but you can still find us on LinkedIn. You can find John on the Holistic Recruiter Club podcast, Spotify, all the platforms.
Exactly.
And a newsletter, very nice newsletter. You can find me on my newsletter, recrutement.substack.com, the Work Me Tender newsletter, the Work Me Tender blog. Everything is in our LinkedIn profile. And we still have the Talent Intelligence and Recruit survey.
Exactly.
That's going very well, but we are still expecting some more answers. So if you want to access to this survey in priority, please come and help us answer it.
The link will be in the bio.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much from the two very tired dads.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Welcome to the Tired Dads of LinkedIn.
The Two Tired Dads. No, Two Tired Dads Talk Tech. Two Tired Dad. Two Tired Dads Talk Talent and Tech.
Welcome to Two Tired
Dads Talk Talent and
Tech.
Just wanted you to do it again. Go. Allez up. Let's go.
It's getting asked every week.
It was some...
we can't say that.
This is the moment we realise we never recorded any of it.
No, it's that's the red light.
All right.
So,
why am I clapping? I know what I'm clapping for. Hang on, let's do it again. Go.
We're getting it. We're getting it.
We were about to hit me in the face then. I was like, whoa.
I can't do it anymore. Okay.
Oh, shit. God. Oh, whew. Shit, is it recorded for an hour and died?